Emil Amok to you. Welcome to my Takeout, my Emil Amok's Takeout, my takes on all things considerable. We're going to talk about Blood for Oil. We're going to talk about Renee Good, her poetry. We're going to talk about the state of the world. But this is the podcast I do. Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez will join me in a second. But I do this show called Emil Amok 69 or 69 Emil Amok. Now, what is 69 Emil Amok? Is it because you are 69? how quotidian your observation. No, it's because, or maybe it's a sex act. I mean, someone told me sex sells. So, Emil Amok 69. Emil Amok, a real journalist, stands up. I think we get to a point where the journalists have to decide it's time to tell the truth. And who's telling the truth? I mean, here's the thing. The journalists are saying things, but the real truth is coming out by people who go amok. That's the premise of the show. 60-minute show, 59 minutes. It's at the Solo Fest, the Playground Solo Fest. And you go to playgroundsf.vbotickets.com, playgroundsf.vbotickets.com, and then find me, Solo Fest 69, Emil Amok, a real journalist stands up. Get your tickets. Hey, look, it's free. It's free. I know, I said free. And considering it's free, the place should sell out, right? No, it's free with a suggested donation. And there are tiers of your potential donations. I'm not asking for like $10,000 or anything, but if you want to pay $1, you can pay $1. No one will be turned away. And the dates again, January 17th, 7 p.m., January 26th, 8:30 p.m., February 2nd, 8:30 p.m., February 7th, 2:30 p.m. And it's all, just four shows at Playground SF Solo Fest. It's at the Potrero stage. And that's at 16, is that 16? 1695 18th Street in San Francisco. It's up at Potrero Hill. Great place. I played there before. And here you see what some nice critics have said about me. And then you get your QR code to go get your tickets. And you can watch it live in the theater with me, where you should, because you can. It's fun. And we're talking together. Or, if you wish, pretend it's the COVID era and you can stream it. You can stream the show. But that's January 17th, 7 p.m., the 26th, 8:30 p.m., February 2nd, 8:30 p.m., February 7th, 2:30 p.m., 69 Emil Amok, a real journalist stands up. There's your QR code. It's free with suggested donation. And the suggestion is not like a deal breaker, I don't think. Come to the show. We open January 17th. That's next Saturday after next. All right. So where are we with this world? Another tanker seized. Trump has met with the oil companies, and it's not clear what the oil companies want to do, except they are designated cronies. They know more about the Venezuela operation, more so than the Congress, really. They were told first. And then we're also going to talk about Renee Good, her poetry a little later. What's happening there is a travesty in terms of Minnesota not being cut out of the investigation, suggesting we're not going to get at the truth. We'll talk about that. But if you haven't seen this, you might have people refer to this, and you ought to at least look at it. It's a New York Times interview, 2 hours with the New York Times. Trump willing to sue the New York Times, but also willing to sit with him for 2 hours so that he gets out his points. The headline of the story, Trump lays out a vision of power restrained only by, quote, my own morality. And that's the headline. There's only one morality that counts. It's not even God's. It's his. It's not international law, but that's what the news story. That's the reports coming out of that 2-hour interview. I'll just read the first two graphs. President Trump declared on Wednesday evening that his power as commander-in-chief is constrained only by his, quote, own morality, brushing aside international law and other checks on his ability to use military might to strike, invade, or coerce nations around the world. That is a mouthful. Basically, he says, my way or the highway. Asked in a wide-ranging interview with the New York Times if there were any limits on his global powers, Mr. Trump said, yeah, there is one thing. My own morality, my own mind. It's the only thing that can stop me. Well, we know his own mind didn't stop the January 6 rioters when he was witnessing them in 2021, and then he pardoned them. So we know the power of his own mind to do evil or to do the wrong thing or make the wrong choice. The Times pressed him further about whether his administration needed to abide by international law. And Mr. Trump said, quote, I do, but he made clear he would be the arbiter when such constraints applied to the United States. Quote, it depends what your definition of international law is. Trump's assessment of his own freedom to use any instrument of military, economic, or political power to cement American supremacy was the most blunt acknowledgement yet of his worldview. At its core is the concept that national strength, rather than laws, treaties, and conventions, should be the deciding factor as powers collide. And some people even mention here, hey, might makes right. That's what it is. It's American bullyism. But what it is the coming out of the new American king. That's what it sounds like to me. Now, let's bring up my friend, Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez, College of Ethnic Studies, Asian American Studies, San Francisco State University, Professor Emeritus. And Dan, well, hold on a second, Dan. Dan, welcome to the program.
Hi, thanks for having me. It must be Friday.
Yeah, it's Friday. Thank you for being here. And, the interview was given Wednesday. It was published on Thursday. We're talking about it today. When you heard that New York Times interview, when you read it, I don't know if you heard some of it, clips. Give me your impressions.
I jammed through it, and then I looked for NYT's own summary, and it pretty much agreed with what I thought was important. Yeah, it's just a really free statement, a very free statement. Once again, I don't think Trump understands the way that his statements are going to be perceived. When he says things like, the only limit on my authority is my own morality, he's meaning to say, I'm like other very principled people. He's trying to take a principled position, but he's also saying that I have the exclusive authority of being president of the United States. So in essence, he's claiming that he's a very principled person in a position of absolute authority, at least political, economic, social authority. That's what he's trying to say. But what he's being perceived, even by MAGA, as a person who's saying, as you suggest, right, that I'm the all-powerful on this earth, and that is going to be a terrible thing because the right is heavily populated by white Christian nationalists, and even they still hold sacred the supreme authority of God.
Well, here's the thing. A
Oh,
lot of people who may have had that viewpoint still held their nose and then blessed themselves and voted for him. Is this too much stink on the man? Or can they hold their nose long enough to vote for him? Or yeah, or is the power that he will grant you, because if they acquiesce, give him power, there's the idea that maybe they can be cronies. And so it's a good thing. Yeah, I mean, I think it's an open question whether they play along with them, although there's good reason to think that they may say, wait, enough is
no,
enough.
okay, they will question his statements of this type, but they will still forgive him.
Ah,
Okay, they will
where's
still
the
forgive him.
redemption? How do they
There's
find the redemption?
They got to ride this horse all the way. They have to ride this guy all the way. It's as simple as that. So he can, but now for the rest of the world, okay, and for the majority of the rest of American society, this is just further down the road. This is accomplishing exactly what I think the critics from the left and the center want to accomplish in terms of trying to convince people about what kind of political and personal decisions they need to make in the near future. Okay. So my position is let him roll. Let him roll.
Yeah,
Give him all
well,
the time he wants.
realistically, he is a lame duck, but he's doing all he can to be not so lame. And if he has absolute power, all the talk about, well, the Constitution limits him. Well, to what end will he stop? To what end will he, like, the rule says, when you lose, you leave office. He was like going out kicking and screaming. I didn't know if he was gonna leave. So it's
Well, if January 6th had succeeded,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
we might not have this conversation at all.
Well, that's true.
It
That's
was
true.
It was close.
It was
It
close.
was a lot closer than people were willing to admit.
Yeah.
Okay, it was a lot closer, and now, of course, the statements made by his prosecutor, right, make it very clear that his confidence is outstanding. Right,
Yeah.
We have more than enough evidence to prove beyond reasonable doubt of Mr. Trump's guilt and being the sole inspiration for the actions of the January 6th. Okay. Anyway, moving on. I don't want to.
Well, but the thing is, if people don't read that interview, if they say, "Well, I'm not going to read the Times,"
they're not going to read it. It's too long.
Because well, people might say, "I'm not going to read the Times interview because I saw him on Hannity last night, and that's the interview that counts." Or I saw him with Maria Bartiromo, and that's the interview that counts.
That's
and so the people who will read this will be, people who are still literate, who still believe in journalism, who still believe in the Times, and it's probably the same amount. I mean, look, President Trump has only a 30% approval rating. Maybe it's up to 40, a little bit. I doubt it, but it's not over 50. I mean, I just can't see how an interview like this would be crippling in the old days, but we're not in the old days. What kind of days are we in?
Yeah, this just it lines up perfectly with what happened beforehand. Like I said, for the people who have grown more critical of Trump, right, particularly people in the middle, particularly I think the folks that are going to matter in the vote this coming November, which is independents. Okay.
Yeah, independents.
This just validates the direction of their criticism at this point, right? So that's all it does. That's all it does. And so, fine, let's move on. Let him rip. Just let him keep talking. I love it. The more he says, the more I like it. Okay, because the more challenging it becomes for people who still want to ride this horse, right, to defend themselves. And now we've got two sets of shootings: the death of Renee Nicole Good, and more information coming out about her personal character, what kind of person she was, as well as information coming out on the background of the man who killed her.
Right.
Okay. And
Yeah,
so
he was in a dragging incident last summer.
well,
So
yeah,
he,
I mean, they didn't want to disclose his name, but at the same time, they described that incident with real clarity, and he was the only guy. That was the only incident of that sort that happened earlier this year. It was this guy. Okay,
yeah.
right. So anyway, if he does get charged, I mean, now the issues are, how's the investigation going to go, and is he going to be charged? I think the state has the power and authority to charge him. The problem is they won't charge him unless they have enough evidence to go forward, first to the grand juries, okay? And then secondly, they don't want to go to a grand jury. Even if they can get a grand jury to say he should stand trial, they're not going to want to go unless they have clear and convincing evidence, okay?
So that's why Ellison was out there.
Homicide. What? Pardon me. What?
That's why Ellison was out there asking for anybody with video, anybody who has anything. He's looking for evidence that would be outside, or that he's looking for evidence before the FBI gets it, because the FBI is running their own investigation in Cunningham, Minnesota.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And I guess that's what you meant in one of your private conversations with me when you said that they're going to Epstein, this investigation. Yeah, they're going to hold out on it as long as they can. The problem is that there's so much video out there in the public eye at this point, and it's relatively the audio is even more shocking, right? Yeah. Especially the audio that's supplied by the shooter himself. He had his hand on his gun at the same time. He didn't have it unholstered yet, but he had his hand on his gun in holster, right? While he was using his personal telephone to record this situation. And it's that body cam. I don't know if you've seen that, but you got to take a look at that. Okay.
No, and I haven't seen that.
Okay, you got to do it. He comes with audio, and that audio, in my opinion, is even more condemning than the video.
Well, what's he say?
Somebody, after the shots are fired, because he doesn't show the shots being fired and her being hit. The angle of the telephone moves, and so you can't see that part. But the shots are fired, and there's also the sound of a thump, and it sounds like the hollow thump of somebody bouncing off the fender. Okay, and so the Vice President of the United States says that this clearly shows he was hit. Okay, and I'm saying that could be anything. Touch this. He could have done it himself. He could have tapped the fender himself just to make the sound. Okay, but there is no visual evidence of him actually making contact with the car. Okay, then there are the shots, and then there's somebody walking away and saying, "Fucking bitch." All right, so it was somebody in proximity to the phone. Could have been him. It could have been another member of his team, but it was a male voice. And that was the statement they made after the shooting occurred.
So it could have been him. We don't know, but there's a reaction to
it shows an attitude.
It
shows an attitude.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's completely consistent with the aggressive behavior of his whole team, right? At least 3 other members of his team were acting very aggressively, particularly the guy that reached in, tried to open the door, and also was trying to, reach into the cab itself.
So now this is all very important and would all be part of an official investigation. However, we know that President Trump has already declared
she was a terrorist.
Renee Good, was a domestic terrorist. Kristi Noem followed suit.
She ran him over. According to Trump, she ran the agent over, right?
Yeah, and then we heard J.D. Vance. The refrain just keeps going, and they've just really damaged any chance of getting at the truth from a federal point of view.
Vance's most recent statement is that she's part of a much larger conspiracy, of a network.
Well, yeah, the same radical left that got Charlie Kirk. It's got to be right.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I mean, that's
Uh-huh.
sort of the answer that the standard knee jerk answer. Instead of, I mean, when the first,
Well, she was a poet. She
yeah,
was an award-winning poet,
yeah,
and so she's a lefty for sure.
I read her. I was going to read her poetry in a second, or at the end of the show. I mean, it was really,
It's pretty deep.
yeah,
It is pretty deep. I
and
was impressed.
yeah, she won a college poetry foundation award, and she compared the dissecting of feral pigs and how killing them, how you get to know what it is when in the process of dissecting a feral pig. Anyway, I'll read the poem, but
Uh, it was. I'm sorry. It was fetal.
oh, was it
Fetal
fetal
pigs.
pig? Oh, not feral pig. Oh, fetal
Yes.
pig. Excuse me. That makes a big difference. The fetal pig is a baby. The feral pig would be a big pig.
That's the whole thing. And so she was making a more profound, kind of an indirect reference to abortion and etc.
Mhm. Right,
It's interesting.
right. That's true.
It was deep. It was very deep.
Yeah.
Strong,
No,
strong
yeah,
feminist statement. Yeah.
yeah. I was surprised. I read it like a couple hours ago, and I really the imagery, and although I did say
Very strong.
feral instead of fetal, but yeah, she was in an MFA program, and she's not. I mean, and if you say, okay, she was a protester, okay, so does that justify the killing? Because then you're going after people who believe in their First Amendment rights.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so. How do we get out of this? I mean, I guess Minnesota is going to do their thing, try to get evidence. If they get evidence, they can charge. Maybe people have video. Maybe there's other things they can get. But then what happens when you have the feds doing their thing, exonerating the ICE agent, and I
Well,
guess they have state charges.
traditionally, because this is about the actions of a federal agent, but it occurred, okay, on a citizen of Minnesota. Traditionally, the state has a higher claim because of locus, because of the place that the alleged
Mm.
crime occurred. Okay. The problem is the guy's a federal agent. And so the feds are going to claim that no, because of his position in authority, right, under the federal law, right, that if there's going to be any kind of prosecution, the feds have. That means that initially it's going to go to court, just determine who's got primary
Yeah,
jurisdiction.
and then
That's it.
it could end up in the Supreme Court too.
Yeah, even just as a matter of determining jurisdiction. Yes, yes, it could. And you're making, see, I don't know if people, how consistently they listen or watch our show, but you have always said, you've always reacted by saying, yeah, I know you're the guy that gets frustrated by the fact that people don't understand. Once it goes up on appeal, the eventuality of the Supreme Court and SCOTUS ruling in Trump's favor is very high. That probability is very high. So that's
Yeah.
where we're at.
Yeah. All right. So now we're getting protests, more protests. We're getting other shooting incidents, like the one in Portland.
Portland, yeah, we don't know enough
Reportedly, a
about that yet.
man,
We
Border
don't know enough about
Patrol.
that yet. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
That's
we know Border Patrol, a man and
yeah.
woman. They were married. They were stopped at it was a car stop,
Traffic stop.
and
Supposedly, it was a clear ID that they were after the driver, the man. Okay,
yeah,
but then we know that they got shot. It was Border Patrol stop. But
yeah,
then, just like the case of Ms. Good, okay, did you notice that at the end of the first tape that was released, right, by the bystander, that they just
mhm.
drove away? That
Yeah,
yeah, the agents just drove away.
yeah.
Right
They didn't hang out.
after Ross waved and circled and said, let's wrap it up, right? and leave, they left. And the same thing happened to this couple. They drove, several blocks at least, and then stopped and called the police, the local police. And the local police came to them, saw that they were injured, rendered aid, right? And then got them to the hospital. No Border Patrol agents, no ICE agents, no federal agents around at all. So once again, they shot into a car and then they left.
Yeah. And no doctors, no medics, nothing.
No. And as again, if you want to refer back to the good shooting, they actually refused to allow a physician on site to even check her pulse.
Yeah.
And then he claimed, one of the agents claimed, we have our own medics on site. And another female bystander screamed, where are they? Okay. And it took, according to journalists, it took another 15 minutes before actual ambulance attendants came. And then came the really ugly part that my wife was driven to tears when she saw the way that they handled her body.
Afterwards,
the way the snow got on. How did the blood get on the ground? That was, she was shot, and her head was blown apart inside the car. All right, inside the car. So, in order for blood transfer to occur, right, her body had to have been in proximity to the ground.
Yeah.
Okay. So they didn't even bring in a stretcher. They carried her out by her limbs. Okay.
Yeah.
It was just a horribly inhumane, circumstance, and that's who we've got. That's who we've got as people who are entrusted with federal police authority. Okay.
And what, that van, that SUV would be a piece of evidence, but I imagine.
They took it. It's in their custody.
And so who knows what
so we all got kinds of evidence issues, and you're right that the state, if I were the state, I'd be doing exactly what Ellison said. It's gathering as much evidence independently of the FBI as possible. You said, you implied that in essence there's going to be a little competition going on between state authority and federal authority, and you're right. That's exactly what's going to happen under these circumstances. And I messaged you earlier today. I messaged you that they're just going to the feds are going to play keep away in their own incompetent manner. It's not that the agents on the ground are incompetent. It's that their superiors are playing a political game. Okay. And they're not only playing a political game, they're playing it badly. They're incompetent as well.
Yeah, well, this is going to go on for as long as the Trump administration. And that's the thing, then who's next or what's next, or does he carry on? If he's talking about the kind of power that he feels he has, who knows? Who knows? But all right. So what should people do knowing that ICE acts in this way, the Border Patrol acts in this way? Things are more dangerous out there than we probably thought.
Local authority. They have to support local authority. In the red state, red states where there's a clear Republican majority, it's, in my opinion, it's a waste of time to write to your congresspeople. All right. Well, what you can do is ask local authority. Okay. And I'm talking about a municipal basis here. Okay. To watch ICE. To watch ICE. Okay. And now, once again, in much the same way that federal agents are being taken from at least 3 different organizations that are supposed to be doing everything from guarding the border and apprehending illegals, right? Undocumented people crossing the border, okay? And then also supposedly looking for people with criminal backgrounds, right? Who have actually committed crimes, okay? And we got that group. We've got another group that's really only trained to intercept dope, okay? And then we've got FBI agents, right, that are supposed to prosecute, once again, searching for criminals, particularly people who could commit terrorism. Okay, that's one of their major objectives. All of these people have been taken from those duties to do essentially, right, this so-called concentrated effort, right, to apprehend uh, 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 undocumented people, and then to follow through by getting them exported to third party countries, deported
Yeah.
out of the United States. So that's the effect. Now, what we have stopped talking about is that if you look back at the Obama administration and the Biden administrations, they were actually more effective in deporting people that had criminal backgrounds.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
both of them,
They, they,
both the Obama
they,
administration and the Bush administration were more effective. 90 percentile of the
yeah.
people that they effectively deported had criminal backgrounds. 90 percentile. Wow. Okay. Well, how does that compare to Mr. Trump, even though he's got a heightened target figure, right? Their quota. What do they
Yeah.
want?
With
They want 1 million
a
people a year,
thousand.
right?
Well, they had a I thought it was 1,000 a month, but
Yeah, that's right.
it
But a
yeah.
million people
So
a year? What the hell?
yeah,
And
yeah. I just think that after a while you run out of criminals.
well, they only got a
Or
13 percentile success
Mhm.
rate. Okay,
Yeah.
87% of people that they have either detained or deported have no criminal backgrounds whatsoever.
Yeah. Or they're here legally.
Okay, so
Some are here
if you were
legally.
going to do it, so that what does that indicate? It indicates that if you had a system that was really effective, okay, in screening people and putting them in front of ICE judges, right, who are now reduced in some states. In San Francisco, we're reduced to four
Yeah.
judges. Okay,
They just got rid of all the
27
immigration judges.
judges got fired in San
Yeah.
Francisco.
I mean that was an issue, yeah, even during Biden and Obama, that there weren't
Oh
enough
yeah, not enough, not
weren't
enough
enough
judges.
support in the immigration
Yeah,
courts.
absolutely,
Yeah, yeah, it's also separate from the criminal justice system. It's a civil. It's its own law, the immigration laws,
absolutely
and
true.
yet that's where Donald Trump has successfully in his propaganda to the public, he's commingled immigration and immigration law with criminal law to make it one. Like, hey, they're all criminals. Well,
Because he can get away with it. Because the general
yeah,
public doesn't understand that there are systemic and structural differences, right, among and
yeah.
between all of these processes. They just see it as one thing. He can get away with that. He can get away with that.
And they let it. Well, so here's the thing, Dan. I mean, it seems like he gets away with a lot, and it's like, what is he going to get away with today? Everything he starts out, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened in the name in the name of American society. He always says the likes of which has never been seen. He's always saying all these things, busting norms, right?
Yeah,
Busting,
yeah,
and at some point, people have to say, wow, we got to change it, or do they just crawl up and say, I'm out of here, or do they crawl up and and really, isolate themselves from the politics of Washington, because that's there. It's
yeah,
here now. It's in our
yeah.
communities
It's
now with
local.
ICE.
It's local,
You,
and that's
yeah,
why
you
I'm
can't.
saying people need to act locally. They can act locally.
Yeah,
Okay. I
yeah,
don't. I don't want to. Okay. I don't want to take too many police off their regular duties, but at the same time, okay, particularly like in San Francisco, where there hasn't been a huge disposition of or distribution, I should say, of ICE or Border Patrol people into the city itself. Right? They haven't done that yet. They're waiting over in Alameda. Okay. They're at the
yeah,
Coast Guard station. I think they're still there.
yeah,
Now, they need to be watched, and when they commit acts that clearly are inconsistent with local police practice, they need to document that. Okay, because there are going to be prosecutions in the future. Okay,
Yeah.
they are going to be able to investigate who these masked people are. Okay, and when that starts happening, those people can, like Mr. Ross, be held personally responsible. Okay, they can be held, and they will be exposed
Uh,
both to both criminal charges as well as the possibility of tort based charges.
well, what about this idea that's been, you know, put out
Immunity,
there that there's, yeah, immunity?
advanced, yeah, it's really ridiculous. Once again, it's going to get a little bit of complexity, right? The fact of the matter is that I can't remember the name of the case, unfortunately, but in the late '80s, there was a court decision. Once again, this is the beginning of the Supreme Court slide to the right, right? In the
Yeah.
late '80s, they said, okay, yeah, torts. There can be some tort action against against federal authorities, but only in very limited circumstances. So they restricted the ways and places in which people might be able to sue the government. Okay, uh, and that's what's been followed since then, since the late '80s. So
Mhm.
now the court has gone a little bit further to the right, and that's what Mr. Vance is relying on. That this movement to the right means, but I think he used the word absolute, did he not? An
Yeah, I
absolute
think so.
immunity.
Yeah. You know, the thing about Vance scares me because he is smarter than all these guys, but
He's smarter than Trump for sure.
yeah, he acts dumb and he's just trying to stay out of it because, he
I don't know,
knows
is
what's
he
in it for
acting
him.
dumb? Okay,
Well,
oh,
he's
you're
acting,
right. He's trying to stay out of it, but at the same time, he has to make use of whatever time he gets, right?
yeah,
And so
it's,
he's
yeah.
trying to. I don't know. I don't think he's trying to pick his points, right? He's trying to pick places where he can say things that are just sensational enough to command some airtime, right?
Yeah,
And
and
get
also to
people to.
please the boss. But when
Yeah.
I say he's acting dumb, it's like dumb like a fox, right? He's strategically waiting to try to amass his own power, and I just it's just I know how do you live with yourself except that's the name of the game. We're playing this
Oh, did you
game.
see that? Speaking of how do you live with yourself,
Yeah.
did you see that the Catholic a Catholic organization came out and condemned him?
Oh, I didn't
Okay.
see that. No.
Yeah, absolute lack of morality. They say he should. They said he should be ashamed of claiming it's his Catholicism and all the rest of that stuff. And
Well,
so
that's that's his whole thing about birth rates and
yeah, yeah,
having kids and that's his. It's all
and
this
the
kind of
responsible family and all that. Yeah, yeah,
yeah
anti gay, anti LGBTQQ, everything.
yeah yeah.
So there he is.
It's I would say that Donald Trump there will come to a point where do you think where people will want to see Donald Trump live because the person who comes after him would be more dangerous? Is that a possibility? Someone like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
a Vance?
That's always a
Yeah.
possibility. I mean, there,
Someone like
just the same way that Obama rose to prominence from the lowest of ranks and with only a little political experience and just a couple of years in the Senate. He didn't even
yeah,
finish a 6-year term right before he got elected.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
so just as that was possible on the left, okay, center left, really, okay, that's also possible on the right. And there are a
yeah.
whole lot of people that are far more intelligent, right? Regardless of how you feel about Steve Bannon, he's smarter than all of those guys, you know. And I think Steve Bannon is even smarter than Stephen Miller. Hello, where are you? Are
Ah,
we
yeah,
being
you're there. You're there.
we're getting blasted, huh? Are we getting
Yeah.
blasted?
Hey,
My internet power is really strong right now, but
yeah,
anyway,
oh,
so
good.
that's where we're at. I think we ought to move on.
Yeah, talk about the oil thing because they were meeting as we were preparing to get on, and Trump had his meeting with the oil execs, and of course they're not. They like to be cronies, but they don't necessarily want to foot the bill. They like that that Trump is doing the bidding for them, but they're not going to run interference for Trump. They're saying, hey, look, there's got to be something for us because they're getting all they need now without Trump If they want more, they got to spend more, and they don't want to spend more.
Yeah, well, they got we have enough oil to be exploited right here from U.S. resources, right? And they want to keep the price up, okay? And you don't keep the price up by pumping in any kind of oil of any kind of quality, right? And especially when you might have access. I mean, they'd be more interested in taking over Guyana, right?
Guyana with the better oil.
Because it's light sweet. It's light sweet.
Forget about Venezuela, but Venezuela, but Trump had the perfect intersection between here's a guy who's doing a bad imitation of Trump. He wants him out, and he's got oil, so that gives him cover. So we'll do it for the oil. And now he goes to the execs, and they say, "Well, it's nice. It's nice, this oil. Thank you, but it's going to cost us a lot."
Oil. It's perfectly good oil. And this morning he said it's wonderful for use in doing asphalt roads. It's excellent for asphalt roads. That's the worst kind of stuff.
It's not the oil you're going to put in your car. You're not putting this in your car.
We certainly don't want to turn it into airplane fuel.
So where are we going to go? I mean, where does Trump go with this? I mean, the oil companies, he's going to have to give them a lot of credits, a lot of tax credits to get them to buy into it.
No, the amount of time and money that it would take for them to do this stuff is crazy. The amount of time and money. When I was researching this to try and catch up on what I already knew about the old Standard Oil fights, right? The Standard Oil of California, right? And suing Venezuela back in the 70s. Now it's ExxonMobil is the biggest of all, right? And so they're the guys now that have come out, and the ExxonMobil Darren Woods, okay, I have a quote from him, said, quote, the country is currently uninvestable. He just invented another friggin' word due to the fast seizures of company assets and ongoing risks. So there it comes, right out of Mr. Big Time ExxonMobil CEO.
So this is Donald Trump acting like Admiral Wrong Way Peach Fuzz and attacking the wrong country. He's attacking the wrong country for the oil that no one wants. And now what do we do?
We shift to Guyana, man. It's light crude, Let's go for Greenland. Come on, man.
Greenland has no oil.
What did I say on Wednesday? There. I said on Wednesday, you got to forget about Venezuela, man. It's not going to change, okay? It's not going to change. What you got to do is look at the attitude and look at the grabbiness and try to think predictively about Trump's ego, right? And he wants Greenland. He wanted Greenland the first term,
right?
He didn't want to talk about Venezuela that much.
The first hour of the inaugural, in his inaugural speech, he mentions Greenland.
Yes,
but I think Cuba. That's another thing because he gets the Miami folks, he gets the Florida vote, and American presidents have been looking at Cuba for back in the 19th century. They wanted to turn Franklin Pierce.
What does Cuba have? Greenland, we know, has got all kinds of stuff. They got like mineral deposits galore. The other thing is, from a security point of view, yes, you got to check against the Russians. Okay, not the Chinese like he claimed, right? There's no Chinese around there at all. Okay,
but so Cuba has free health care that all Americans want, and that's.
Come on.
That's the only thing.
They got sugar, man. The stuff that everybody
But what's his name? Then RFK Jr. said no added sugar. No, he was anti-sugar the other day. He's gonna have to change that. They
got rum, man. They got rum.
So I think the blood for oil thing. It is what Trump wanted, but it's not playing out the way he thought. The oil thing, right? It's not.
Is anything going to play out the way he thought? Because what do you think? is stupid. It's
this
what he thinks is either really stupid or really crazy. Okay,
well,
so
this is
so
the
big surprise. It's not working out the
yeah.
way he thought.
Well,
Woohoo!
he makes mistakes. I mean, he's a man who makes mistakes. We'll live with that. Hey,
Uh,
now meanwhile, what's
and
happening?
Marco, Mr. Anti-Cuba, anti-Venezuela, and we got to take over this hemisphere. Marco, he tries to clean up the guy, Stephen,
Yeah,
and then Stephen Miller comes out and says, "Nah, that's not what he meant."
yeah. Well, yeah. Rubio's trying to be diplomatic,
Yeah.
and Stephen Miller is less so.
Says
But
no. Yeah,
but look
he's got
here,
the
here,
power,
here
what does it mean if we have the most powerful military in the world? Okay, what does that mean? What is it? We have to use force. Come
well,
on,
this is the
man.
thing, the bullying part.
And
The
he's the
bullying
biggest
part.
dweeb. I call him light bulb head.
Yeah.
He's the
Yeah,
biggest dweeb
yeah.
around, man. Okay,
All right.
well, if
But
a revolution comes, I want to see that guy in the front line.
yeah.
I want to
Well,
see
well,
that guy.
well, here's the thing. Here's the thing about the bullying and the imperialism. He's just capturing the wrong countries. That's one problem. But the other thing is, I thought it was imperialism, but it's not so much imperialism because with the death or the murder of good, really, this is the beginning of the fascist presidency, or this is where the outward authoritarianism is. If you doubted, I don't think anyone after this week should doubt that we are. You can say to the extreme that we have a new king here in America, or you could just dial it in a little bit and say, okay, it's not a king yet, although there's no one checking his power. It's his own morality. We really have the authoritarian. The authoritarianism is here in America.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, there are a lot of people who won't say
we're
the
doing
A
this.
word.
We're doing this for our audience, right? When you ask, "What do you think?" Okay, I don't know how long we've been having these conversations, man, but it was obviously started way back in Trump's first term, and 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 I said back then, this is where we're going. That the only reason we hadn't gone there in the first term was because he had people who were real. He had people who were real. He had real generals. He had real lawyers. He had people that really believed in the Constitution. And they were holding him back. Okay, and then one by one he eliminated them. When I was still teaching class, right? But right before I retired, I had a list. I said, here are all the people that started out in Trump's first year as part of his cabinet and holding all kinds of executive positions all throughout federal government. Okay, and all of them were gone by the third year of his first term. Okay, all of them were gone.
All right. But speak to the issue that we are now American authoritarianism, American
very
fascism.
predictable, very predictable.
Well, I know, but a lot of people have said, no, we still have a democracy. Our democracy.
Oh man, they're so full of it. The democracy exists at a local level. Okay, the democracy exists at a local level. The election of Mr. Mamdani, right, is proof of that. Okay, this is a guy that, from a centrist and right point of view, right, is a commie. He's a danger to the whole of society, right? This is craziness, right? He's a Muslim. He's a South Asian. He's a freaking socialist Democrat, right? All of that stuff is wrong from the perspective potentially of other American voters. Maybe half of the population is worried about that, right? What does this mean?
Well, how do we bring us together?
We don't. We go with the people who are already willing to see and criticize, right? We already go with that. Okay. Do you realize? Okay, we've started several institutions in American society since the late '60s. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. And much of that was because legislation that was passed by Congress in the mid '60s did a variety of different things. But one major piece of legislation, the Civil Rights Act, right? Mm-hmm. And following that, the Voting Rights Act, and following that, or at least commensurate with that, was the Immigration Reform Act, right? So those three things really changed the face, literally, of American society. Okay,
So,
literally. Okay,
all right.
so along with that and the New Deal aspects, right, which mean Social Security and eventually under the Johnson administration, Medicare, right? We we got all of this stuff that American society started taking for granted. They
Right.
took it for granted.
And now we're going backwards and eliminating one by one, one by
Yes,
one.
yeah.
Right.
Sometimes more than one by one.
Well,
Sometimes
like
two at a time.
I said this on January 1st. I said, "Welcome to the 19th century. Here we are. We're back in the 19th century. You know, we've got tariffs, we've got
Yeah,
imperialism, we've
yeah,
got a rollback of all these things, civil rights, affirmative action.
yeah. Monopoly industrialization.
Yeah,
Monopoly
but
industrialization, man. That was the middle to the middle of the 19th century all the way to the first 20 years, right?
so
Of
yeah,
the 20th century.
so we've just gone back 200 years, really, with Trump.
Yeah, well, and we have the 250th anniversary coming up. I mean,
Yeah.
in a couple
I'm
months.
just saying, every time I hear people talk about this, they say, well, he's a great divider. He's divided us. Where is the unity? What will bring us together? And it doesn't, I guess, what will bring us, do people wake up and say, hey, it's July 4th, 250 years of democracy. We got to love our country more. And that's
It,
why I
you
love
know,
Donald Trump.
it depends on how you define unity. Okay, if for me, unity is pretty simple. Are people willing to act in concert on specific issues? That's it. That for me, that's unity enough. Okay, if you think unity is everybody sharing common values, that ain't gonna happen. That's just not gonna happen.
Not
On
in a democracy, not in a mature
Yeah,
democracy.
because people are free to think independently of each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we go with the issues that we know commonality. We go with the people who are willing to take critical steps beyond simply talking about it. We got
But
to talk about the vote. We have to talk about organizing. We have to talk about moving on a local basis, moving and then moving up to a state basis. And
all
that
right,
is
but what
beginning to happen. That's
yeah,
beginning to happen.
but you said something that's key there. We don't have, I mean, this idea that we can't have the shared values. We have some shared values, but
Yes, we
not
do.
100%.
That's
Not
right.
100%. So it's going to be like law by law. So maybe we build, so it's really all about coalition building. It's all about people working together,
Yes.
sometimes
Well,
across.
I think people right now would be willing in several states. People right
Mm.
now would be willing to say we got to put restrictions on federal actions within our state boundaries. I think they're willing to do that. And
Yeah.
I think if there are state politicians who refuse to move in that direction, they're going to get voted out. That's what
Yeah.
needs to happen. There
Yeah.
needs to be
And yet,
changes at the state level.
And yet, at the same time, we still have, as long as Trump is perceived as powerful, you will have people just sycophanting their way up the ladder, like Mike Johnson, like Lindsey Graham. Like, I mean, it's just,
Okay, I agree with you. I
and
agree
you
with
replace one
you. Lindsey,
sycophant with
oh,
another.
okay, fine. But okay,
Yeah.
I agree with you completely. But what does Lindsey Graham, does he have a growing level of respect, admiration? Okay. Does Johnson have the croaker of the house? He's not the speaker, he's the croaker of the house, right?
Yeah.
Does he have an increasing level of respect and admiration? Or are both of them suffering tremendously from loss of credibility?
Oh,
Political,
yeah.
personal, all in all ways imaginable.
But loss of credibility means nothing when you have the power, or at least hanging on to the Trump coattail
Hey,
of power.
17 Republicans passed, okay? Not
Yeah.
only the discharge petition, they were able to get that thing on the floor vote on okay, via the discharge petition. That is a hell of a signal. And
But
Johnson is stuck. He
yeah.
is stuck. He's going to do
Yeah.
exactly what Trump says. And then, and then there's going to be more Republicans that are saying, man, I got to worry about my seat. And
Well,
my
this is the
people
thing.
in my
Yeah.
constituencies are turning against Trump. So we got to go. See you later, dude.
Well,
So
it's
Johnson, man, he's hanging on by a little tiny thread.
yeah. I just think that
Lindsey
he's
Graham, what we got? Talk about another dweeb, right? 5 people across him when he says that I'm done with Trump because of January 6th, and he
yeah.
switches entirely, does an absolute backflip, You know,
Oh,
it says,
yeah.
no, he's my guy.
Well, that's the thing. It's so venal, it's so corrupt, and it's a turn off to people. I think either people get turned off to politics, or they say, "God, this
That's
has got to
right.
end."
That's
They
right.
got to
That's
stand
true.
up and say, "This has got to end. How does this happen?"
That's right.
All right. So, all right, Dan. I said we're going to try to end
Yeah, we are.
before.
I think we covered it.
So, yeah, we covered. So, look, I'm not even talking about the 49ers. We'll see what happens over the weekend.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's
I
cool.
mean,
Well,
the
they're really
season.
good. I mean, I really appreciated the season anyway. You know,
Yeah.
I think they still have a possibility. You got to see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
anything can happen, but
Well,
they met with, I think, if not the best, the top two or three defensive teams when they ran up against the Seahawks.
oh,
Uh,
yeah. Oh,
they're
yeah.
really
Seahawks are
good.
tough.
You
They're probably the top seed. I think they're going to be. I
know,
think.
they're really, really good.
So
I
we'll
was
see.
surprised.
And look, they got something that the 49ers aren't getting this week. That's rest. The 49ers
Well,
need
that's
rest.
true too. They get
Yeah.
the bye. They get the bye week.
All right. So
Yep.
Dan, you have a bye week or bye weekend.
You
Have a nice weekend. I'll talk to you.
too.
Watch it. I mean, because God, I mean, last weekend when Venezuela hit, it just changed. I mean, we knew it was coming
Sure.
at some point, but
Sure.
we'll
But
see
it
what
happened
happens.
really quick. Yeah, it happened really quick, and it shocked most people.
Yeah.
But you and I are not most people. That's
I
the whole thing.
I
That's
was
why we get charged by our critics. But Jesus, you know, as if any of this stuff was real.
yeah.
The
Yeah.
guys, one of our
It's a,
critics said, "Yeah, these people are fools, man. They're acting as though any of this
yeah.
stuff is real." Well, how real is it for you now?
Yeah, it's pretty real. Yeah. All right, Dan. Dan, thank you very much, and we'll see you again next time. Have a great weekend. There he
All
goes.
right, dude.
There he
All
goes.
power to the.
Daniel Phil Gonzalez, my friend, College of Ethnic Studies, Asian American Studies, San Francisco State University. I bring him in, talk about stuff because he knows the law. He knows the law, and he knows the news. And I don't know the blood for oil thing. It's the wrong oil. We talked about the wrong oil. It's the wrong oil. I don't know what's going to happen though with the with all this between Minneapolis and Venezuela, and you got Trump in that interview saying, "Hey, I'm the guy. My own morality. That's what I adhere to. That's Donald Trump." I mean, are we seeing a man slowly evolve into our king? I mean, a lot of people are saying that now. I'm seeing, you know, pundits saying, "Oh, this is the king. This is the king that Thomas Paine, common sense. This is what we feared." You got a guy who would do anything and say, "Why not? Why can't we do it?" And then we have the enablers. But I think Dan's right. You got to go local, ground up. That's how we change things. I'm going to stick with that. The murder in Minneapolis of Renee Good, born Renee Nicole Macklin, she wrote this poem. I want to read the poem because I am the poet laureate of a San Joaquin County community. Paid poet laureate. And this is her. Now, I misread it at first. I thought it said feral pigs, but it's fetal pigs. And this is a strong feminist anti-abortion message. It is. It's called "Unlearning to Dissect Fetal Pigs." This was written by the woman that Donald Trump said this is a domestic terrorist. This is not a domestic terrorist. This is a woman with a poetic soul. This is a woman with empathy. This is a woman who has more empathy than Donald Trump. On learning to dissect fetal pigs. I want back my rocking chairs, solipsis sunsets, and coastal jungle sounds that are tercets from cicadas and pentameter from the hairy legs of cockroaches. I've donated Bibles to thrift stores, mash them in plastic trash bags with an acidic Himalayan salt lamp. The post-baptism Bibles, the ones plucked from street corners, from the meaty hands of zealots, the dumbed-down, easy-to-read, parasitic kind. Remember more the slick rubber smell of high-gloss biology textbook pictures. They burned the hairs inside my nostrils, and salt and ink that rubbed off on my palms. Under clippings of the moon at 2:45 a.m., 2:45 a.m., I study and repeat ribosome, endoplasmic, lactic acid, stamen. At the IHOP on the corner of Powers and Stetson Hills, I repeated and scribbled until it picked its way and stagnated somewhere I can't point to anymore. Maybe my gut. Maybe there, in between my pancreas and large intestine, is the piddly brook of my soul. It's the ruler by which I reduce all things now, hard-edged and splintering from knowledge that used to sit, a cloth against fevered forehead. Can I let them both be? This fickle faith and this college science it heckles in the back of the classroom. Now I can't believe that the Bible and the Quran and the Bhagavad Gita are sliding long hairs behind my ear like Mom used to, and exhaling from their mouths make room for wonder. All my understanding dribbles down the chin onto the chest and is summarized as life is merely to ovum and sperm, and where those two meet, and how often and how well, and what dies there. The words of Renee Nicole Macklin in the news, known as the late Renee Good, gunned down by an ICE agent in Minneapolis. On learning to dissect fetal pigs, you can find it on the American Academy of American Poets website. She won the 2020 Academy of American Poets Prize while an MFA student. And it really is a quite touching poem on learning to dissect fetal pigs. So let's think about this week and move on. We'd like to end the show. Well, one of the things, before we end the show with my meditation, I want to talk about my show. I'm doing Playground SF, the Solo Fest. It's on at the Ventura Stage, 1695. Is that 1695? 18th Street, San Francisco, Ventura Hill. January 17th, 7 p.m. The 26th, 8:30. February 2nd, 8:30 p.m. February 7th, 2:30 p.m. It's an 69 Emil Amok because the world is upside down. How do we deal with this? It's subtitled "A Real Journalist Stands Up," because I am a real journalist. I write these columns. You see them on Substack, Philippine Inquirer. Sometimes you just have to take the stage and go amok. Talk about this 69 world. Anyway, get your tickets at playground/sf.org/solofest. You go there, or there's a quick QR code and get it. Get your tickets there. Thank you for joining us. I like to end with a little loving kindness. A little loving kindness. Sharon Salzberg, meditation. One of my gurus, my meditative gurus. And it goes like this. And so as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Till next time. Mahal Kita.